Oh my gosh, this is so awkward. Wow. So a week ago, I finally made the decision to delete my favorite app of all time, Instagram. It started off as a lighthearted way to share videos and moments with my families and friends, but it just ended up being an addiction-driven, habit-forming compulsion that took over my everyday life. And especially with the whole COVID situation, it took over my life even more. Every morning I'd get up, and for the first 30 minutes of my day, I'd just sit by my bed, scrolling through Instagram, and then when I got up to get breakfast, I'd have my phone in one hand and my breakfast in the other, just eating and scrolling. And then when it came time to do some studying or some work, whenever I felt frustrated or bored, I'd just go on my phone again and scroll through Instagram. Then one day, I came to the self-realization that I just wasn't really happy with myself. It's not like I had a bad experience with Instagram, but I also realized it wasn't a fulfilling experience either. Every day felt so dull and mundane. I was overwhelmed from news and information from all around the world. I had lost track of all my ambitions and interests, and most importantly, time was just passing by so quickly. I'd say the breaking point for this and why I deleted this app was because I checked my phone's screen time one day and it was 9 hours, and the majority of that time was because I was scrolling through Instagram a lot. And so that day I just decided to delete Instagram without a second thought. I also have to admit that this was not the first time I've tried to decrease my addiction with Instagram. I've tried decluttering my feed, like mass unfollowing people. I've also tried putting Instagram in its own folder in a hard to reach place, but none of that worked because I'd always find an excuse or a way for me to reach the app and just start scrolling endlessly. And that's why the only way for me to fix this addiction or impulsion was for me to delete the app. That way I've created as much friction as possible between me and Instagram so that if I ever had that impulse to want to go on Instagram, I'd have to go on the app store, download the app, and enter all my login information, that's a lot of friction. And during that time I would have probably realized I could have been doing better things with that time, so why go through it anyways? And since willpower isn't an infinite source for me, deleting the app helped out a lot with my impulsions. There were two, I'd say, minor issues that I faced after deleting the app, and you might experience this as well if you choose to do the same. I'd say the number one fear people have when deleting off any sort of social media is fear of missing out. And that's completely understandable. I mean, you're so used to seeing and wanting to know what people are doing with their lives and sharing your own as well, that when you're suddenly pulled away from that sort of world, you don't know what people are doing and you fear that you're missing out on what others are doing as well. So let's just put this in another perspective. If you were, say, scrolling through Instagram for 30 minutes, how many of those posts will you actually remember in the long run, and what could you have been doing during those 30 minutes instead? I know FOMO is something that people fear when they delete any sort of social media, but from my personal experience and from what I've heard from other people, that usually goes away in the first 1 or 2 days after deleting the app. It's sort of like a sugar addiction, Maybe you have a craving on the first day, but then if you say, no, I'm not going to eat any sugar anymore, I'd say after the first few days, you probably won't have any cravings, and it's really similar to Instagram. The second problem that I think people would face after deleting Instagram is boredom. Think about all the extra time you're going to have when you're not scrolling through Instagram. The second problem I had to face was all that extra time on my hands and the boredom I was going to have with not knowing what to do. But with that time, I came to discover my old interests and hobbies and decided to devote more of my time into more meaningful activities. And like recently, I've been getting into a lot of music production and just playing my instruments more in general because I haven't been practicing a lot before. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, and I'm really happy with myself for devoting my time into more meaningful activities. Okay, now that you've heard my story and why I decided to delete Instagram, I'm going to tell you why you should as well. Number 1, you are going to feel so much more happier and free. There are so many ways that Instagram could affect you negatively, and one of them is seeing someone's life through a distorted lens. I always like to call Instagram someone's highlight reel. Everyone puts their favorite or best moments on Instagram, so it gives a false sense that everyone's life is better than yours in one way or another. And with this feeling of constant comparison, you're not going to focus your time on yourself, but rather on scrutinizing other people and seeing how their life is better than yours. And when you delete Instagram, you suddenly don't know what people are doing, so you can focus more of that time on yourself and working on self-improvement. And besides, when you catch up with old friends or classmates, you can have actual conversations without pretending that you don't know every single thing about their lives because they've posted on Instagram and you just look through their feed and stalk them all the way to their last post. Another reason is life is short, and as cliche as it is, it's very true. Think of all the hours you spend on Instagram combined. You're definitely not going to remember those moments, and think of what you could have done with that time wasted. You could be creating memories, spending time with loved ones, or doing things that truly matter to you. And lastly, this has more to do with productivity, but whenever you're working or studying, you don't have that feeling of wanting to consistently check your phone all the time. This way you can be more focused on your tasks rather than having half your mind think about Instagram and the other half thinking about your studies. On a final note, I'm not telling you you have to quit Instagram or that you're suddenly superior if you do. There are so many reasons why people use Instagram, like for business or catching up with friends halfway across the globe. And in the end, it's a personal decision that only you can make for yourself. But if you feel like Instagram isn't really benefiting your life, try deleting it for a week and then maybe a month and see how you feel, because I can guarantee you that it has been such a good feeling to not have Instagram on my phone anymore. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if you did find it helpful, please consider subscribing. It really helps out a lot. Like the video, comment your experience with Instagram, and if you're gonna delete it. And that's all I have for today, so thank you so much for watching.